Alright, well we are back down in the basement and today we've got the mini door and we're looking at, the spot that I usually have an opener installed. And as you can see, today we don't. As a matter of fact, I don't even have my back hangs installed sitting back here. So you don't get to see the mini door very often without an opener on it. And, today you're not going to be seeing the mini door without an opener on it because we do have an opener installed here, just not in the form of a trolley opener. Yep, I put up a jackshaft. Specifically, I did the 3800. So, I've been wanting to do this for a long time, pretty much ever since I got this machine. I've just been too lazy to actually do it, so I figured I'd do it today. You can see that this just fits in there perfectly. I mean, there's just the right amount of space for it. I had just enough shaft sticking out of the torsion, or just enough shaft on the torsion bar to install this. So, and this does work. So before I get into installing how the install went, before I installed this, well, I'm going to back up a little bit. So if you know me, you know that I like to have things kind of planned out beforehand on, how I'm going to install an opener or something like that. So not too long ago, I was test fitting this opener up here, and I was also test fitting the 8500W, which the 8500W doesn't fit. It's too big. It doesn't fit in here because it's obviously longer than this one is. So I will need to do one of my signature sketchy installs to get that one to work. So I might not do that one next because, but I don't know. But I was test fitting these openers to see if they would fit. And when I did that, I had both of them disengaged. And when I went to reconnect the 3800, I could not get it to re-engage. So I took the case off, and I actually, when I got this 8500W over here, that was actually what was wrong with it, is that it was stuck disconnected. And the problem with that one is there's a little master link in there that had popped off, and then there's a little wheel, or let's say it's like a plastic wheel around a cable, and that master link had popped off and that wheel had popped off, so the cable wasn't actually pulling on anything to re-engage it. So all I had to do was put those back in place, and now this emergency release works perfectly fine. With the 3800, however, that was not the case. So with this opener, I had to actually, so I found out that there's a little plastic piece, goes right here, that is part of the ratchet mechanism for the disconnect that decides whether it stays disengaged or re-engaged. And after taking the case off and messing around with the disconnect a little bit, I figured out that it seemed to be getting stuck on that piece. So what I had to do was I had to get that piece out and, put some grease on it so that it wouldn't get stuck. And let me tell you, that is probably the worst repair I've ever had to do on an opener. To get this opener, you had to take this thing pretty much completely apart to get at that little piece. And these openers are not easy to take apart because everything has to come out. You got to take out the board, travel module, and then you got to take the motor out, which the key to getting the motor out of a jackshaft opener is to take off the E-clip with the sprocket before, take off the E-clip and then slide out the sprocket, or slide the motor off the sprocket. That's the trick to getting the motor out without having to wrestle it off the chain. Because I remember last year at work, I tore down a couple 8500Ws for parts, and I couldn't even get one of the motors out because I was trying to wrestle it out of the chain, and then I realized, oh, well, I can just do this. So anyway, if you ever have to take a motor out of a jackshaft, that's what you do. But man, I will say these are probably the least repair-friendly openers out there, which, come to think of it, is probably why they don't sell many parts for these openers, because boards and travel modules are easy to do, but anything beyond that, yeah. So I did that. I got that apart, lubed it, somehow managed to get the opener back together and working. I'm really glad I found that problem out before I installed the opener. So now now it works perfectly. The opener works perfectly, except I still need to get a board for it because it still does not work with lighted buttons. But now the disconnect mechanism does work perfectly fine. So getting this unit installed was a little bit challenging. So you can see I'm using the new style collar on it, and I like this one better than the old style one because the other one was the kind that like clamps down onto the torsion bar, and those were kind of tricky to put on, and they had a tendency to slip some, and so these ones are definitely better. Then I've got my mounting bracket down there, and this is what was difficult about this one. You know, I barely have any space here, and I actually ended up having to stick a piece of angle back there, bolted into the flag bracket there, and then attach the opener mounting bracket to that angle, and it holds. The opener does move when it runs, but that's because it's not because of how the opener is mounted. The opener is perfectly straight. I mean you could see, but it's just the shaft itself has some play to it. You can see, like, I don't know if you can really tell, but the shaft itself has some play to it. I don't know why, it's always had that. So, but yeah, that was a little difficult to get installed. So let's open this up here and show you what we got going on in here, so you can see our programming buttons. I don't have a lock installed because I'm using it on the 8587 over there, and I don't want to drill holes in the track. The cable tension monitor, I just have bolted onto the track here and held open with this bolt, which, well, I didn't really feel like putting it up there, and it's not going to throw the cables on this door. With the way the door is balanced, I mean, it doesn't naturally stay here. If it's disengaged from the opener, it will fall down a few inches. It likes to rest just barely above where these tracks meet. So it's got some weight to it. It'll kind of come down on its own. So I'm not worried about it throwing cables. And, you know, it still has force control, so, you know, it'll trip the force before it dumps the cables. I did try, actually, because if you look inside the cable tension monitor, it's just a switch and a resistor. And I tried hooking up a lighted doorbell button to see if, because I mean the insides of those are pretty much the same thing, except there's also an LED on there, but that did not seem to work. So it might have just been like the wrong size resistor or something, I don't know. And then you can see I've got my safety sensors installed up here because all the wires I have for regular openers run back to where a trolley opener would go. So I just stuck everything here, and again, it works fine. I'm not worried about it. And like I said, this doesn't work with lighted buttons, but so I'm using a 378 LM. It's got a red LED in it. Box for it's over there, but got a 378 LM for the wall console. 377 LM keypad here, and I have the 373P, which is the remote that I would have come with, and then I have that programmed, obviously, and I also have this 893 Max from this opener programmed, and I do have the remote light here. I still don't have a light lens for it, but this does work. So and I still don't have a battery backup for this. I need to get a 475 LM to use on this, the 2500 and the 3500, but still haven't gotten around to it because they're expensive. But anyway, I guess I'll show you how this works. It does work pretty well. It does throw the door around a little bit on the way up because the soft stop on the way up doesn't work very well, but I mean, in general, this thing works really well, so let's run it with the 373P. Yeah, so I mean, it does run pretty well. It's a little faster than I'd like it to be, but like I said, I'm not concerned about it throwing cables. Now, I will say it is really nice not having anything hanging from the ceiling. so I don't have to worry about bumping my head. I've got the whole area that I can work in now, so that is nice. And then there's the remote light that is on, which, by the way, this remote light was made in 2013. And there's the alarm button on it. All right, I'll run this back up. Yeah, and you can see how it kind of just jerks at the top, because like I said, it doesn't, for some reason the soft stop on the way up doesn't really work very well. It doesn't even really do the growl very much, so not sure what the deal with that is. So I'll run this and I'll get you a view here. You'll see the opener does move a little bit, but it's not that bad. We'll use the 378. Yeah, and door kind of shifts a little bit when it gets down, but it's all right. Run it back up. So yeah, it's nice and quiet. You know, now I can use this thing as much as I want since it's not mounted to the ceiling. No one's going to complain about me running this thing. And for power, I've got it plugged into that light up there, because there is an outlet up there, and I didn't want to use an extension cord and plug it in over there, so it works fine up there. We'll give you a sensor and force test on this thing. Let me see if I can, maybe, yeah, I can block this with the remote, so let's give you a sensor test first. And then that flashes. And we'll give you a force test. Actually, here I'll also show you what it does when you trip the cable tension monitor. Stick in there and hit the switch. Instant reverse. And then I'll give you a force test, and I'll show you that the force does work on this before it throws the cables. Actually, I think that did just throw the cables. Cables at least got all out of whack. I think this side could actually dump the cable though. Yep. Wait, maybe not. No, it didn't actually dump the cable. Hold up, let me just run the door by hand real quick and I don't know why it decided to run there, but oh yeah. Well, okay, I guess it will dump the cables. So let me fix that real quick. So now I got the cables back on. Let's see if that messed up the limits. I think it's fine. Yeah, that's all right. Okay, well, so I guess I need to make sure I don't set anything under the door so that I don't dump the cables. All right, let's run this down, and then I'm out of here. So there you have it. That's the 3800 on the mini door. Thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all later.